Okay, so this is Jan from 4th September, and I'm actually watching like all my videos and reflections and hormones from SL Day 6 August 2015, and I realized that I missed out like the really the cringy part of my reflections, which is that like why I the happy part of that day, because like I I did a whole vlog on why I was really sad that day, because like of a lot of some like teasing, and in general I wasn't feeling it, and what happened at the H3 talk, which is that um basically um basically I ran into Marissa de Cruz, and there was a lot of like back and forth between her and Ty, and yeah, just a lot of stuff. But essentially, what made me happy that day was it's really sad, because like I can't believe I'm the sort of person that like finds validation from other people to be like comforting, especially from like guys. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't want to be that kind of girl, but I kind of am that kind of girl. So like, oh Jesus. Okay. So anyway, um, essentially, what made me happy that day was when I was filming. I was just kind of by the way, I don't know what this accent is, but like, yeah, I was filming, and um, Ashley and I were just kind of fooling around with my camera before everyone went to like the Kim Sing estate, and then I was like filming Ty, and then I was like, oh, this is Ty in his natural environment. He's being retard. And he like looked at me, he started doing some weird like octopus thing, and I was like, oh god, and then so we walked to Kim Sing, and then he and I talked for a while, but for the most part, I was just talking to Shen Hao. And yeah, Shen Hao's actually a really cool guy, lah, but I don't think I will ever have a thing for him. But anyway, yeah, so we went into the bedbug thing, but before we went in, like, we had to collect a bunch of supplies to clean the house, and then, like, me, I was the unit leader, lah, so I, like, grabbed some of the stuff, right, and then Shen Hao helped me carry some other stuff, and I was carrying a broom, but I realized that like this would probably be the last time I could get any form of like human contact, because everybody would be like, ugh, like you're covered in bed bugs, ew. I'd be like, no, I'm not, but like, So I don't know, like, I kind of just seized the moment, and I just went up to Ty and was like, hey, can I have a hug? And he said, always. And then he just hugged me, and then I was like, oh dear god. So anyway, yeah, and then I think he said like take care or something like that, and then I was walking away, and I was like, yeah, to Narnia in the north. And then we went to the house, and I don't know whether I did a vlog on like what actually happened at the house, but essentially what happened was that we went to the door, and then we knocked on the door, and it was this like beautiful old blue door that like you never really see nowadays, because everyone else has like crisp white houses and white minimalistic everything, either that or it's like just really gaudy with Chinese ornaments and everything. But this house was just simple, and the blue door was like really aged and old, and it had like 3 Powerpuff Girl stickers on it, and it's just, oh my god, it was really really photogenic. But I was like, okay, and I knocked on the door, and there was no answer for like 15 minutes, and I actually had to crouch down, and I looked at like the hole at the bottom of the door to see whether there was actually anyone home. But I saw some movement, and someone said that they like heard somebody washing up or something, and then I was like, oh shit, what do we do, and I was like kind of secretly hoping, which is really bad lah, but I was like secretly hoping that the person wouldn't be in or wouldn't come out, so that I could just go back down and like spend more time with the rest of the class, because but eventually the guy opened up, and he's kind of really sad, like he's like reminded me of Muqtada from It's Kind of a Funny Story, and it was strangely emotional for me, because I realized that given the current state I am in now, and given my lack of motivation, if I keep doing this, like I'm gonna end up like him. I'm gonna end up like alone in a house, not necessarily cluttered, but mine will probably be cluttered considering I'm a hoarder, and just very like just with no emotion. And so we went to the house, and we like saw the state of everything. Everything was just beautifully aged, but at the same time it was really dirty. Like I mean, everything was packaged well in like plastic bags. I don't know what was in those plastic bags, but I was just really thankful that like I didn't have to cover it up, because then I would have had to cover everything up for the chemical like fume fumigation thing to happen. And then he basically pointed at these two wooden cabinets and like a bed frame, um and we were all like, what? And then he pointed to it and he said, apparently, according to Shen Hao, who speaks Hokkien, because I don't speak Hokkien, he's like, oh yeah, I want to get rid of those. And I was like, are you serious? And then I opened it and it was like so nice, because it's just a nice wooden cabinet with like, I think old timey like stamps stamped onto the sides of the cabinet, and they were just fading so beautifully. I just really wished I had a DSLR, but all I had was my phone, and like at the time I didn't even have my phone because I gave my phone to Miss Rani to like take photos of us. And by the way, she took like quite a few like shitty photos, but like, oh well, you know, I appreciate her effort. um and then so me and Shenhao basically moved the cabinet out, and we found out that the cabinet was actually where the source of all the bed bugs were coming from. And we were like, oh shit, so actually it's not from the mattress, it's from like the cabinet. Then we were like, oh, I saw the bed bugs, I was like, these are quite big, like they're not like ticks, you know, they're not like ticks where you don't know where they are, that kind of thing. So I was like, okay. So, and by the way, the suits they gave us were like so flimsy, legit, they had holes everywhere. And like it was basically like wearing a disposable piece of tissue, or like, oh my god, you know, disposable underwear, like that's the material that suits were made out of. And I was like, are you serious right now? But no, like I'd rather it be cotton rather than like plastic or rubber, because you know that's worse for the environment. So yeah, and then I think one of the most, like the parts that made me think the most, was when we actually called the movers to come down and like move the cabinets. And it was these two Indian guys, and we were like, oh okay, can you please move this for us, we'll give you gloves. And then I realized like that sounded so shitty, because I was in like this full body suit and a mask, and like I didn't even like I wasn't even the one who's going to be in contact with this thing for the most part, you know. And all I gave them was gloves. I mean, not like the bodysuit helped lah, but at the same time, you know, it's like you don't place the other person at as high a regard when you don't know them. And I felt really bad, because we had more suits, but I think everyone else like decided to kind of change the suits. I mean, not everyone lah, but the people who like me, Jessie and Ben, who were in the toilet and actually getting wet, and like, oh god, I didn't know how much of it was fecal matter and how much of it was like grime, but it was quite terrifying for me, especially since I come from like a first world country. And Ben was like, oh no, I see this all the time, like, you know, my country is like a third world. I was like, no, your country is not a third world country, your country is like a developing second world country. But like, oh well. And I was like so genuinely scared, and it was so bad that I didn't even want to open my mouth. And just thinking about it now just makes me want to like cover my mouth and hide. It's like the feeling when you're with a bunch of pigeons, like, oh my god, I hate pigeons. But like when they fly at you, and then you can like feel the disease, even though you know that like it's not probable that it's gonna land on you, or like if you don't open your mouth, you know, like everything's fine. But like you don't want to touch it. And this is how I felt when I went into his bathroom, and after getting over like the fact that it was like freaking gross and everything, I just got really sad, because I realized this is what he has to deal with every day. I looked up and the ceiling was like, the cement was coming off or something. Like basically there were these metal bars that could be visible through the bathroom, and I was like, oh my god, that's horrifying. I can't imagine how he comes home to this every day. And again, I started getting really scared, because I know that like given my laziness and inability to like clean on the shit, right, if I don't have the resources or the financial resources to actually clean, like to hire a domestic helper or something to help me like keep my house in order, it'll probably just end up like that. And yeah, it just made me really sad. And so okay, basically at the end of the day, like a lot of shit happened lah, which I hope I will have elaborated on. But basically the gist of it was that everyone was kind of working their asses off, and the people, the painting the murals, they were like having a lot of fun, and like, woo, we finished early, you know. And all of us were kind of like slaving away in this guy's house, and we didn't actually do like that much. all we did was like clean up his house a little bit, get the fumigation guy to come in and like mop his floor. That's about it, because everything else, like we kind of didn't want to touch. We were like, you know what, if he's fine living like that, then I'm fine living like that. But oh god, it was quite it wasn't super filthy, because it wasn't like congested, it's not like my house where it's cluttered and there's like mosquitoes everywhere, but it's just quite shocking. So yeah, everyone's basically wiping the doors and like keeping the cabinets and everything, and then yeah, so that happened. And then we went down we asked the fumigation guy to come in, and we told this old like guy to like go out of the house, and he was like, no, I want to stay in the house. And I was like, bro, you mad? Like, you can't stay in the house when they're fumigating fucking like bed bugs, right? So eventually we got the supervisor, like this guy from the community council thing, to like coax him out, and he was like, oh no, I want to sit in front of the house. I think he's scared somebody is gonna like 偷东西, Then I was like, oh god, okay. I was like, do you want to come down and have lunch with us? And like, it was again so mean, but I just hoped that he would say no, because I didn't, like, I'd rather you just like volunteer to come and clean this guy's house rather than have to talk to him, even though I know that he's probably more in need of like the talking than he is of the cleaning. But like, yeah, and then I felt quite bad, but he said like, oh no, I want to stay here. And we were like, okay, we'll bring the food out for you. And apparently he's vegetarian, which is really weird, because I don't know, it's totally unexpected. Like, yeah. And so he basically just sat there, and we went down and we sat in a circle and we ate like the finger food, and it was really fried, and I was getting really bad like body image stuff. And Ashley was there. Ashley was like a lifesaver, because she helped facilitate everything, including my groups one, and I was kind of in a panicky mess. And so she brought us our food, and then I don't know, that day my hormones were going really crazy, and I just really wanted to see Thai, and I was like, okay, where's the rest of them? And then she was like, oh, they're at this playground. And I was like, that sounds so amazing. And so like I was like, guys, let's go. And then we basically went, and like I let down my hair because I'm stupid like that. And then like I was walking barefoot essentially, and we left our stuff there. Thank God Miss Rani was like, oh yeah, I'll take care of your stuff. And Cheryl said that too, and I was like, oh no, I felt really bad. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm becoming a shittier person. But at the same time, I don't want to get to Nan's level, which Nan actually said, hey, maybe I should stay up there with him. And I was like, you don't know how to speak Hokkien. It comes from a good place, and it's probably like what we all should have done. But I couldn't. I'm just not that giving. And so we went to the playground, and I think the first thing Ty did when he saw me was like he stood up, and then he just kind of held his arms open and was like, hey, how are you? And then he just hugged me, and I just felt so like safe, no, everybody else was like, ew, don't touch them, or like, oh my god, how was it? They weren't like expressively disgusted, but you can tell that like some of them were like really like about touching us, especially Mr. Ong. Or like, oh my god, Mr. Ong. He was like, oh my god, are you sure the bed bugs? I was like, oh, Mr. Ong, please. And so yeah, and then kind of like when we went out of the hug, like he just kind of kept his arm around my shoulder, and like I kept my hand on his back, and we just kind of like, yeah. And then like, he was like, oh, good job, I'm really proud of you and everything. I was like, oh, thanks. And then I don't know lah, I'm really pathetic. Okay, I'm really pathetic. And like, yeah, then so we sat down, and he just kept asking me like, are you okay? Or like, and I was like telling them stories about like horror stories about the toilet, and he was like, whoa, like, good job, I'm proud of you. And then I was like, the affirmation was just so, especially coming from him, it was just so nice. And so eventually like Chen Hao was like, oh, we have to go back, and I was like, oh my god. And I was kind of sitting in the middle of the circle, and I wanted to sit next to him, but I was like, you know what, Jen, no, this has gone too far. You need to keep yourself away from him. If not, you're just gonna straight up like, I don't know, do something stupid. So I just sat next to Chen Hao, and we were just talking about shit, and like, I don't know, we kept making eye contact, and yeah, so at the end of everything I had to go back, and I was like so sad because I didn't want to go back. I just wanted to stay there, and I was like, okay, I gotta go back now. And then okay, I think we just hugged him again, and then yeah, that's what happened. And then went upstairs and I was like renewed with this whole sense of like, yes, I'm doing this for a greater purpose. And then we went up and the guy wasn't there and we were like, fuck. And then we like freaked out for a while. And the first thing I said was, okay, look around for bodies. Like, did he throw himself off or something? Did he fall off? But thankfully there was no bodies, and like the community people came again, and then they found him at the kopitiam like right next to, like, downstairs. And I was like, what, bro, what you doing? And he like went in, and then we mopped his house and we gave him like a fresh mattress and fresh bed sheets, and he seemed quite happy. Apparently he smiled, although I didn't see it, and he just asked us to like throw out a lot of things. And at the end of it, like, we just came out like heroes. And even though like I could tell Ashley was kind of flustered because she wanted to go, like she was like, oh my god, can we go, but in a very like more mature than I would expect her to be. So I was like, okay, that's cool, and yeah, so that's pretty swag, yeah. And after that, like I don't know, I guess I held Thai again for a really long time, and then we decided to go to Holland V for lunch. And then I was like, oh, I'm taking the train, because I thought he would take the train too. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely taking the train. And then at the end, Mr. Ng was like, oh, okay, let's just let the bedbug people like go in the car, and then I was like, oh, okay. So it was like me, Ashley, Rebecca, and Shen Hao, I think. And then like I sat in the front seat lah, because I was like, meh. And then like, yeah, so that's what happened. I sat in Mr. Ng's car. It was kind of weird. It's like kind of really awkward, but they were talking, and I was just like, I just had a moment to myself to just process a lot of shit. And I asked Mr. Ng about his car, because apparently he has a camera in his car, and it's really cool. But at the end, I found out that all of them ended up taking cabs, and I was like, damn it! Like, oh, I could have like sat in the cab with Thai, and like, oh god, Jen, like, stop. Oh, I need like somebody's shoulder to just lean on all the time. Why am I such a weepy, like, 21st century girl? Like, I shouldn't need a man. I don't need a man, but I just want a man. But why do I want a man? It's because biologically my hormones are telling me like, oh, you know what, like, you're raging hormones, like, you gotta go get a man, you gotta get sexual. But like, no, I don't even want to get sexual. I just want to get emotionally close to someone. But like, oh my god, why him though? He's like so gross. I can't. Okay, well, I think I've been speaking for too long, so, and future me is probably gonna get really pissed off because I keep dragging and I never get to the main point. But essentially, after that, like, for the next 2 weeks or so, and even sometimes now, like, when I try to get myself to sleep, like, before that, if I'm having like particularly bad thoughts and I try to take myself to a happy place, that's essentially the happy place I take myself to, like, when I'm hugging him. And this past week, when I cut school like for 2 days, because I just couldn't take it anymore, when I went back on Wednesday, it was like the first lesson was geog lecture, and actually I stood behind him in assembly, but I don't think he realized, because he had to walk in front and do something for like project acknowledgement or something. And like, yeah, and I had to rush off because I had to go meet Miss K, and like it was so scary, like my heart was beating so fast. But eventually, when I went into the geog lecture, like it just felt like coming home. Like, I don't know, Chen Hao, Jessie, and Ashley were just like, Jen! And I was like, oh my god, hey. And then the best part was that Thai just was standing there with his arms open, and even though it was really awkward because I had to like walk around, I was gonna hug him over the chairs, but I was like, no, that is not cool. If I'm gonna get a hug, I'm gonna get a proper hug. So we walked around, he just kept his arms open. I just felt safe. Yeah. So anyway, that's what happened. I need to stop being so hormonal, and yeah, life is good.